Is going to go to work to earn that 15,000? No. Our programs are set up to discourage work. They don't make work pay, is how we call that. And I read about it in all these poverty experts. They say, oh, we should have programs that make work pay. So we should make sure that every dollar in benefit, any dollar that they get extra by working, they only lose 50 cents or something in benefits. Well, in our programs, you lose the whole thing, right? Unfortunately, when you look at our programs in total, work oftentimes eliminates whole programs, and so people don't work. And we'll talk about that here in a moment. So the second place where all this money goes is for people who start in poverty but make so much money that it takes them well over the poverty level. And then the third place where the money goes is in administrative costs. Because I don't have room in this brochure to do it, but in the website you can go and you can see who's administering what programs. There's lots more detail on the website if you're ever interested in reading more. This is kind of, you know how brochures are, they become a little bit cartoonish, but 7 large federal agencies administer these 12 programs, and they don't talk to one another very well. So you end up with separate forms, you end up with separate audits and separate staffs and all that kind of stuff. So by definition, we're 11/12ths too much in administration. If we had one program, you would have one staff, one agency, like we do with Social Security or Medicare. Here we've got 12 programs and 7 large federal agencies. A couple of agencies do multiple programs. But even there, they're very independent and they hardly talk to one another. So there you have it. That's not exactly tying out the entire difference, but it's instructive to look at it and see how diverse and uncoordinated our system is. Good? Does that make some sense? Well, it's our federal government, isn't it? Okay, well, we're spending lots of money. We're spending $358 billion a year. At least, are we eliminating poverty? No. And that's really the sad news, and that's the graph here. And I apologize again on this. We don't have room to put all the different scales and to get into it, but in the website you can call it up. You can see what all the scales are and how the numbers are calculated and everything else. But that red is spending per person in poverty by the federal government over a 50-year period, and it's adjusted for inflation. Wow. So that's 2010 dollars. Way back 50 years ago, we spent about $445 per person in poverty, per person under those poverty thresholds. Now we spend close to $8 grand. And the reason for that is over the 50 years, we've just created programs. And even back in 1996, when we said we were going to reform welfare, and we rolled several programs together, and we created the TANF, the Temporary Assistance for Needy Families program. While we were doing all that, we had food stamps, we had housing growing, and we created a child care program, and we created a WIC program. And we did all of those kinds of things to where when you look around at the end of the day, we really did lower the costs in the TANF program. But folks, I'm here to tell you it's like the whack-a-mole thing. You whack this one down and these pop up, and you whack this one and these pop up. And until we get our arms around the whole thing, that's going to happen again. I think the only way to really control our costs is to look at it as one welfare system. It really is. That's what the users are doing, right? Yeah. They may have to go 12 places to get what they want, but if they're in need, they're going to do that, and they're going to go where they want. And what we have to do to control costs, and even to help the poor, because it's a horrible way to try and help yourself, is to run around in the federal government in 12 separate programs. We have some people that just cheat the system. We actually have some who are in need. And those people who are in need, sometimes they use it and they move on, but many times they get trapped into this system and they stay there for all their lives. And that's really a problem. So why is it that, let me keep explaining. So we've had these costs that have gone up, but the blue there is the poverty level. The poverty, it's the percent of individuals in poverty in America over the 50 years. okay? So right now, it's 15% of the population. If you look how flat that line is, and again, I haven't labeled it for you, but it's between, we've had a poverty level in this nation between 12% and 15% of the population for the last 45 years. So we spend all this money, and we spend more and more and more and more, and the poverty level's as flat as a pancake. Why is that? Well, it's because we're giving money away, but we're not encouraging independence. We're not encouraging people to move off the system. We're probably making a lot of lives comfortable, and we're probably actually even encouraging people to stay on the system, as we've talked in some of those things. But what we're not doing is giving people a hand up out of poverty. We're just giving them a handout. We're just making money available, and they're staying on poverty. And if you go into the theories, and we've already talked about this, the reasons for that is as it says right here. Our programs lack conditions. We don't ask for anything in return. We don't do drug testing. We don't expect grades. We don't expect people to work. We do in one program, that's the TANF program, when Gingrich and Clinton did welfare reform, they said it's good for 5 years and you need to be working by then. But one program has it and 11 programs don't. So it's not effective. And we say here that it discourages work. Well, we already went through that. It sure does discourage work. If you're going to lose more in benefits than you're going to gain in work, are people going to go to work?
No.
Some aren't. That's exactly right. And the last thing is it actually lessens responsibilities. We just use the school lunch program as an example of that. Would it be better, even if you were going to just give the money away, and we are, right, we're paying for school lunches, would it be better to give the mom the money and say, provide a lunch for your child? I think so. At least then, there's responsibility involved. When the people can just go, I don't have any responsibility, the government's going to do it for me, then we're down a road of not moving people in a progression to some place that makes them independent.
This is a good definition, complex definition of socialism. Discourage anybody from trying to be better.
Now, I have a lot of people picking up on that thought that say it was evilly created and all of those kinds of things. And I say to them, probably, and we could get into a lot of debate about that, what were the motivations on many of these programs, but you don't even have to go there. Because I'm telling you, when you show that to people, they go, what in the world is that? Why would we create 12 programs? Why would we define the qualifications 12 different ways? Why wouldn't they all talk to one another? Americans understand that, and if we can get that message out there, and if we could just do one thing, and that is to say, we want to get our arms around it all. And especially right now when Americans seem to me to be waking up a little bit, they're worried about our costs. This is a great place to say, look, we don't need 12 programs, we don't need to create a 13, we don't have a closed program, have you noticed that? Maybe we need a closed program. We don't have a toothpaste, we don't have personal hygiene, we don't have clothes.
Well, we got a bunch of dirty poor people.
Right.
Well, that's my fear. And I'll tell you my other fear is that we have some courageous people in Washington. Representative Ryan said we should add, his solution, and some of our candidates, some of the Republican candidates are doing the same thing. They're saying let's add a work requirement to SNAP, and let's add a work requirement to HUD.